It's 9:38 or so on the East Coast, and it's USA. It's Friday, March 5th. It's the weekend, and beautiful day it was. Wasn't it a beautiful day? This is the king of all mediums, and I'd like to welcome you to another podcast. It's podcast number 18, I do believe. I didn't lose count there. Or was it 17? We'll have to put that in the descriptions, but I might have lost count. So tonight I'm going to talk about my path to atheism. We'll go over the views. It hasn't changed much. No changes of place. Most views of videos and their formats. And finally we'll go over some finds. Things I picked up, or I have one reclamation project, and we'll discuss that. So my path to atheism. So I was born not in an Orthodox Jewish home, but my mother was kind of religious and my father wasn't. So my mother tried to be religious. She bought kosher meat, but for some reason it was okay for us to eat non-kosher pizza. I guess it was, she had her kind of her own rules. She didn't keep separate dishes, She made absolutely no sense. She washed the dishes, and, milk dishes and meat dishes for those who are not Jewish, because milk and meat are not supposed to mix. So let's say you have a dish and it's used for milk. You can't mix that with the meat dishes, It makes no sense, because if you have a milk dish and you wash it, there's no more milk on it. But religion's very screwy anyway. So I grew up and, I believed this phony baloney stuff. And, and I was 12 years old, my father had a heart attack. I remember I had in English, I wrote in English that, Dear God, please don't let my father die. And I translated into Hebrew, a Hebrew to English dictionary. And he didn't die, so I guess it worked. That without my faith. So he would end up dying 38 years later. So 37 years later. But anyway, so the thing is that so I grew up and I kind of drifted away a little bit. One of the influences actually my brother. He kind of challenged me. He said, there is no God. I said, what do you mean there's no God? And I couldn't, I was like, why is he saying this? Of course there's a God. I learned it in Hebrew school. My mother said it. One day I remember I said to my mother, I said, where is God? And she goes, he's everywhere. But he's nowhere. He's not around. God is everywhere. So time went on, and one of the first things I encountered was evolution. And I remember going to the library, and I was fascinated about the monkeys. I would pick up, I'd go to the library and I'd pick up books on zoology, and I would see pictures of the monkeys. I said, wow, those monkeys look a lot like us. It wasn't even the apes, by the way. It was some of the African monkeys and some of the South American monkeys. And I said, wow, those guys look a lot like us. And it's like, wow, could they be related to us? I remember even 11th grade, as far as like 11th grade, I took biology. I remember, oh no, we didn't come from no apes. Couldn't be. And then little by little, I started. It wasn't, it's funny. It wasn't actually anything to do with God. As far as evolution, I started to look and I said, I really started to believe in evolution. And I remember the big moment that I became interested in evolution. I saw this thing. I used to buy this magazine called Omni Magazine. And Omni Magazine used to have this. I don't like science fiction like a lot of people. So this guy's a geek. He must like science fiction. No, I hate science fiction. I watched Star Wars. I think I watched it when I was bored. So I saw this thing. These have this nice thing called Continuum, which basically was about science. And they had this thing about evolutionary psychology, which kind of got me interested because I wanted to know the reason I didn't get laid. Basically, everyone said, okay, you're not good looking, you don't have no money. These are the two reasons, yeah. And, well, like my friend Joe didn't have money. He was getting laid, you know. I mean, you know, he's working a shitty job. You know, he's young, you know, but he's still getting laid. You know, his girlfriend was meh. You know, he's okay. She's okay. She's not a bad looking girl. But you know, my friend Eric, you know, he's a little better looking, but his girlfriend was okay. She's cute, you know, but he was getting laid, and I was trying to figure out why I was getting laid. And somehow, those thoughts were rambling in my mind, and I was saying, "Wow, this evolutionary psychology looks interesting." It talked about what would, and the first thing that piqued my interest was mate selection. Why women were interested in men, and why men were interested in women. And these are basically two things. Women were interested in status. And status usually dealt with material resources with men, because men couldn't provide offspring, right? Now, men were interested in women to provide children. But they wouldn't say, they wouldn't really look at a woman and say, you know, give me children. They basically needed cues. And the cues in women were looks, right? So, looks. And looks basically was a cue for reproductive life, or the length of reproductive life. And, you know, beautiful hair, and soft skin, and supple breasts, and all these things. And that made me interested in this. I was saying, well, what would make me, I was like a 20-year-old, 18, 19-year-old kid, why would certain men attract women and certain men not attract women? And opened up a whole Pandora's box, and just became interested more and more, not only about the aspect of me not getting laid, which continues to this day, of course, but what, as an incel, but what, you know, the other aspects of evolutionary psychology are quite fascinating. So, and then evolutionary psychology led me to, well, what is evolution, you know? And you know, because if you understand a little bit of evolutionary psychology, you know, you have to understand things like kin selection, you know, things like that, and genetics, genes. So those bring up other things. So now you have this thing for me, wanting to figure out why I wasn't getting laid, to going to this thing called evolutionary psychology, to going to this thing called evolution. And then, so evolution fascinated me. So, wow, these chimpanzees, they're our cousins, you know, they're a different species. They have their own thing, you know, they're not better than us, they're not worse than us. The biggest thing always you're from ignorant people is, how come chimpanzees or monkeys don't turn into humans? And Richard Dawkins always had the greatest answers. How come humans don't turn into monkeys? They have a good life. They live in a tree, safe, you know. You know, why don't they? Oh, come on, microphone. Sorry about that. So why don't humans turn to monkeys? I mean, yeah, they live a good life. They live up trees. They live a nice, safe, peaceful, away from the world. You know, gorillas. They live in troops. They got one big male, and it's a whole harem. It's not, if you're that gorilla, you got a good life. And your chimpanzees, they fuck around. They have sex. You know. Especially the bonobo chimpanzees. It's a constant orgy, you know? So, we as humans think we're at the top of the food chain because our cognitive gifts have enabled us to dominate the other species, reform our world, etc., etc. So I became very interested in evolution and became convinced evolution is true. But I still really didn't take out this whole thing with God. I mean, I was like, it's not important. But evolution, you know, I'd still go to the synagogue and go to the Yom Kippur. And the funniest thing about Yom Kippur is I used to go to the Sephardic Judaism, if you don't know. It's just the ethnicity, which is the Mediterranean. If you're from the Mediterranean, Spain, my relatives in 1492 on my mother's side of the family were kicked out of Spain. So you're called Sephardim Jews. So I used to go to the synagogue. It was funny. But the funniest thing, you would have to fast for 14 hours. Really rigorous. You couldn't even have water. Very rigorous fast. And the rabbi says, he says, say, oh, you got to fast for 25 hours, not 24, because God is not good with time. Right then and there, I should have left. So I would still even go to the synagogue. It was probably 1985 or so, 1986. It was nice, the family was around. And after they break the fast, they'd bring pizza, which was unkosher. You have rye bread, and you have the family. It was a nice time, So the religion aspect of it was important. I got my first job in 1980, out of college, 1988 or so. And there's a lot of coke going around, and it's for a company, one of these mutual fund things, and it was really wasn't a job I liked. I could just see it was a lot of white trash, it just wasn't for me. And it just was really bad. It was really beneath me. And for some reason, I just asked a few people in the company, do you believe in evolution? And they said no, and I couldn't believe it. I was like, and a lot of them used to say, oh, I see you're in your monkey suit. And that led me to think, why is they don't believe in evolution? And that led me to the idea that, and at the same time, I remember my uncle, my father's brother, who was a big atheist, said to me, where was your God when 6 million Jews died? And I said, I don't know. I was speechless. And those two events together was, impacting me greatly. I started searching, and little by little, I became pretty much, there's no God, where's the evidence, And little by, especially when the post 9/11, 9/11 happened, I was, I didn't really, I was more into evolutionary psychology, discovering why I didn't get laid, and, we'll talk about another good one, why the king of all mediums doesn't get laid. You'd figure he's a nice guy. He's not horrible looking. Maybe I am. I don't know. So, maybe we'll do that. Why the king of all mediums, evolutionary psychology, doesn't get laid. So, maybe we'll do that soon. Maybe tomorrow. I had another topic. I forgot. A really good topic for tomorrow. Something about reparation. I don't know. I'll talk about reparations, but all these, a lot of atheists are woke, and so they'll say he's a racist because he doesn't agree that reparations are good. But anyway, so I really, I kind of like this stupid, but I didn't speak up much about it. Then I remember 2001, of course, the 9/11, the atrocities committed by the Muslims, and I was extremely angry. But the book that really got to me was The End of Faith by Sam Harris. Great book. I got, I lost all my possessions. I got it again. And of course, the YouTube with the, of course, Richard Dawkins. I knew of Richard Dawkins, of course, from his work on Selfish Gene, but I never saw his debating and his, taking apart these religions. I became very militant atheist. I thought not only is religion wrong, but it's bad for you, bad. And I also see Christopher Hitchens, God is not great. So a bunch of they call the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse. Daniel Dennett, Christopher Hitchens, Sam Harris, and Richard Dawkins. So, you see these things, and and that kind of further, you just saw Dawkins just tearing apart these religious people. Sam Harris, too, it's just embarrassing, And Hitchens, of course, is a brilliant mind. He just seen how embarrassing it was. And it came to the point I became a militant atheist. But I've kind of relaxed in the last, maybe the last year, because I thought to myself, there's no convincing these people. They just don't understand. They say evolution is just a theory. It's just a theory. It's just theory. We don't have any. There are gaps in the fossil record. No, there are. Of course, there are gaps, but they're freaking dinosaurs. And of course, we don't have every hominid. Fossils don't do well in Africa because of this type of soil there. It's not like North America where things freeze and can fossilize much better. So that's really how my path went. And there's more towards evolution, but then shockingly, people didn't believe in it. And then my uncle, he was the one that really said, where is your God? Where is this God of yours? 6 million Jews. So one other note before I go on to the views. One of the funniest things. So I was getting back into the recovery of my family. I was hanging out with them for a little bit, about 2 months. And my sister goes, "I'm going to give you a hand." Like the Jews have this thing called a hand. You wear like a thing. It's going to protect you. The hand is going to protect you. Sure. This thing is going to protect you. I mean, she's evolution, bless her, but the hand is not going to protect me. Okay, let's go to the views. Okay, not much change. Okay, so let's take a look. Okay, so in case you're new to this, every Friday I go through the top views of videos I've uploaded, and something, which is a vinyl, is top, and what is it, 143, I do believe. Okay, Flying is on its neck, just recent, and that is, how much is that, 132. Something Else is at 89. I never knew it did so well. George Harrison and solo, 1987 album, I do believe. Devil's Radio, I think. I forget the name of that album, but good album. And Jeff Lynne produced it. It's the whole Jeff Lynne going crazy with the Traveling Wilburys. And there's a tie in 4 and 5, but 4 breaks the tie because 4 went up later than 4 Dire Straits. That is Walk of Life. It's the only one in a non-vinyl format. It's a compact disc at 83. And going up earlier, so I made that as my 5th choice, is the Walk of Life, also at 83 views. The Ballad of John and Yoko. Holding on, still in kind of competition, but and again, it was a big surprise. I think maybe I thought a lot of people, the walls come tumbling down, so they collected. But it's a very good song. Take a listen. I Come Tumbling by Grand Funk Railroad at 81. Now you might say, well, how can I look up any song? It's a very easy way. You go to your Twitter search box and you type the name of the song. Now this is a song that I thought people were going crazy at the beginning. In My Life. Maybe you'll pick up a few views, and you type in My Life space at Hip Days Lounge, and you could immediately see the video, and it'll tell you it only has 38 views, which is a big surprise. It's on vinyl, and that was a big surprise to me because I thought this was going to go crazy. Okay. All right, now it's time for show and tell. Okay, so what do we got today? So we got 4 items and a reclamation project. Isn't that fun, kids? Okay, now, so I ordered a compact disc, and what is this? This is the Diana Ross, because she was too good for the other ones. Diana Ross and the Supremes. What a CD. Dozer, Holland, and Dozer might be the greatest songwriters, except for Lennon McCartney of all time. They wrote most of these songs, and where did our so many number ones? Where did the love light start shining through? Where did our love go? Baby love, come see about me. Stop. In the name of love, right? Back of my arms again. I hear sympathy, nothing but heartbreak. Love is like itching in my heart. You can't hurry, love. You keep me hanging on, which You Keep Me Hanging On is a number 1, but it's also interesting. It was also later covered, one of the great covers of all time, by the Vanilla Fudge, right? The psychedelicized one. Love Is Here and Now You're Gone. I think that was another one too. The Happening. That was another. Reflections might be my favorite Supremes, Diana Ross and Supreme songs, but it was not a number 1. It's actually a number 2. In Out of Love. I don't know if that was a number 1. Forever Came Today. Some things you never get used to. Love Child was a number 1. I'm Living in Shame. I don't think that was number. I'm gonna make you love me. Yes, I will. That was actually with the Temptations. I'm gonna try something on the Cook shows, and no matter what you are, someday we'll be together. That last number 1. These were classy ladies. I mean, these weren't sluts. These weren't Beyonce shaking her ass. These were talented, classy ladies. What a shame. What a shame. Disgusting what today's music is. They didn't have to do that because they were talented. They were beautiful women, classy, beautiful. Diana Ross and the Supremes. Eventually they were the Supremes, but they became Diana Ross because she gets a little better than the others. But really, not a lot of credit is given to those three songwriters who wrote like 80% of these songs. They didn't write I'm Gonna Make You Love Me. And they didn't also write Someday We'll Be Together. Those are Holland Dolls. What incredible songwriters. I think they wrote a lot of Temptation songs and a lot of Four Top songs. Again, I think they're the second best group of songwriters of all time. Maybe Jaggers and Richards, but I think they were better than Jaggers and Richards. I'd like to just get a list of the number of songs they wrote. Okay, so that's one. Okay, now, so I got my Blu-ray player, and I said to myself, what can I do? And so in August, I always celebrate Woodstock because that's one of my favorite things to do. Sun's out. I'm a hippie at heart. So I got the Blu-ray to Woodstock, the director's cut, and I think this comes with an additional 9 hours of the movie never released footage. So I'm going to be looking for this, but I'm not going to open it. I'm going to try not to open it until that day. That's going to be hard, though. But take kind of the surprise out. So, and by the way, I will be featuring stuff from that every day. I'll feature 2-minute, 20-minute pieces of that. So 3 days, you'll get 21 minutes of that. So something to look forward to. Okay. Another reel-to-reel came. I think this is their third album, Simon and Garfunkel, Parsley, Sage, Rosemary, and Thyme. Okay, so probably maybe one of their weaker. That's what weaker jobs. Again, Paul Simon's one of the greatest artists of all time. Popular music. He's up there. Got to be. In terms of performer, songwriter, he's better. There's not many. He's top 10. So, show the back. Okay. How young they were, I guess. Okay, so what's on this? First, it starts off side one. Scarborough. Oh boy. Yeah, I'll discuss tomorrow. I've been on I was recommended to use this supplement called MCT, medium chain triglycerides, and I think that's what's been causing my itching issues. And I think I'm allergic to it, and so I finally didn't take it today. And I think I'm feeling a little better, but you need like 2 or 3 days. But I'm just itching like crazy. So, oh man, what the hell! Thank you, brother, and thank you, Ron, my friend Ron. Oh, it's the greatest thing. It helps you. Okay, so the first song is Scarborough Fair, Canticle. I think Scarborough Fair is a traditional song, and Canticle is, I think Paul Simon wrote. The next 2 songs I have not heard from, so I'm interested in hearing them. Patterns and Cloudy. Homeward Bound. Of course, everyone's heard Homeward Bound, home when my thoughts lie, whatever. The Big Bright Green Pleasure Machine. No. The 59th Bridge Song. Feeling Groovy. Okay, then side 2. The Dangling Conversation. Never heard that. Flowers Never Bend with the Rainfall. It's a great song. I've heard that from the Paul Simon songbook, so he rescued that to put it on here. So again, material is sparse on this. A Simple Desultory Philippic. I think I've heard that too, and that was him impersonating Bob Dylan. For Emily, Whenever I May Find Her. I know the title, so I probably knows how to sound, but we'll have to see. A Poem on the Underground Wall and 7 o'clock news, Silent Night. Well, Silent Night, that's the traditional Christmas carol. So, it wasn't highly rated amongst it, but it was cheap. So I have a plan going forward. So once my probation period is up, I might get $100, and I could use the $100 whenever I want. So first of all, I'm gonna knock off books, because books are I'm pretty good at, actually. I have a lot of books, so since they're so expensive, I'll probably use most of the 100, like probably $50, on the reel to reels, and then probably split the rest with cassettes. And I'm very disappointed with the 8-track tapes. I'm having a lot of problems. Try to probably open one up. One and two are just probably ruined. There's one I have that I think I finally got. There's actually 2 types of 8-track tapes to open them up. One isn't that hard. The other one is I'm having trouble opening up, so I'm having trouble fixing it. The one I bought, a Blind Faith 8-track tape. It's just a mess. What happened was I played it. It was turned backwards. The tape was flipped around. If anyone used reel-to-reel tape, they know that problem. Okay, so now the final thing let me show you. This is a brush. Now, one of the controversies I went on one YouTube channel, and the guy says, "Well, one way of cleaning it, everyone knows the problem with vinyl is it's dirty. You put a pop, 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 pop. To me, it looks beautiful. You get these big things, but it doesn't sound great because of the pops and the skips and the So what do you do? And most of the records I like are old, So what can you do? And maybe they'll re-release it, but that's only something like Sgt. Pepper's, And you probably want the old ones anyway. So how do you clean? So one guy demonstrated how to use detergent, and I tried that on this album. Now this album is maybe up to 50 to 51 years old, and I actually somehow got this from my older brother. He bought it in 1970. This is the Band of Gypsies, and so I did exactly what he said. And actually, the first side improved greatly. Now, the second side is still not that good. So maybe I'll try the second side again. Then I go to another channel, and this guy says, never do that. Never put detergent on a record and clean it like that. Because, and this made a lot of sense, he said, the problem with doing that is, think about it. You take dirt and water, and what do you get? You get mud. So you're making mud, you're putting it on the record. So he said, what you do instead is you need 2 things. You need an anti-static mat and one of these guys. A brush like this, a lint brush, right? First thing you gotta do is gotta take off the dust. But the problem is, if you don't take off the static electricity, the dust will just pop back to the record. You turn it over, push it off, it pops back on. So the anti-static electrifies the dust, and then you put it over a table and you just gather it all together and you push it off. That's another way. So I don't know which way is going to work. So I want to experiment using this beautiful 51-year-old Band of Gypsies album. So, but it is so. Right now, I'm going to give it a little play using it. Although fortunately, I don't have the anti-static mat, so I do need that to work. Okay, well, thank you so much, and so tomorrow we're going to have another podcast. I still don't have a topic. But maybe I like that idea, how I got into evolutionary psychology, because I wasn't getting laid. That's how it all started. If I was getting laid, I'd probably be a good Jew. Like, I'd be an Orthodox Jew, like 3 kids. Imagine how life goes, Like, if I had, if I was a good-looking guy or something,
I'd probably have like 3 kids and be like one of these Yami guys, Yamikas. I'd probably have like 3 kids. So, but because I wasn't getting laid, I became interested in evolution and becoming evolutionary psychology first. Became interested in ecology, and then became interested in because I wasn't getting laid. It was all just because I wasn't getting laid. So I wanted to figure. I wanted to know why. I wanted to know why. I thought knowing why would make a difference, but apparently it didn't. All right, everyone, have a great evening. We'll see you tomorrow, and then we're going to take a break on Sunday. Take care.